Welcome to the Programmatic Digest podcast, a weekly roundup of top programmatic news with fellow programmatic ninjas. I'm your host, Ellen Parker, your very own programmatic sensei. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get into today's conversation, subscribe, like, and share. Leave us a comment. If you need any more details, visit our website, programmaticdigest.com, programmaticdigest.com, where you'll be prompted for our new weekly or monthly newsletter. It only alerts you when there's a new episode live. So thank you so much for all your support and love, and remember to be curious. Enjoy the conversation.
Hi, Manuela. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Helen. So happy to be here.
Yay. I'm so excited to have you because you and I have been in contact on LinkedIn for quite some time.
Yes, I'm actually excited because I remember when I first listened to your podcast, I was so excited to listen to like really good content. And then I just was like, I'm going to add her on LinkedIn and see what happens. I was being a fan, actually.
Thank you. The sentiment is shared because I also follow you on LinkedIn, and I was very intrigued to talk to you today because we're going to specifically talk about the Latin American market, programmatic media and digital media specifically. But before we get into it, I know you're head of programmatic media for Aluna. So how about you just introduce yourself to us and to the listeners that don't know you yet?
Okay, perfect. Right now I'm the head of programmatic for Aluna Media. So my job is developing the product. I'm the point of contact for everything that's related to programmatic. And since programmatic is something that it's been around for a long time in the US, it's still a bit new in Latin America. I've had a lot of experience working for the US, so that has helped me developing a product that it works for the Latin American market, and that it also, at the same time, you need to be training the clients, training the salespeople, training the teams all the time for them to understand better how it works. And that's something that I absolutely enjoy. And also trying to make different strategies with all the available channels that we have aside from programmatic. So,
Got you.
Yes.
That's a really interesting. This is a really interesting segue into what we'll talk about, because I mentioned to you before we started recording that I have very little knowledge about the Latin market, and so I'm super excited to talk to you about today. In today's conversation, we'll highlight two specific articles. Actually, one of them is research from Magnite. It's called Magnite LATAM CTV, and that's the 2021 research. So for those listening and those watching now, we'll have the articles in questions and the URLs in our show notes. And then the second article is about automation. Is automation replacing media buyers, right? And that is the Digiday article. So let's go ahead and jump into it, right? What is happening in the Latin American market? What does that include? Is it anywhere below the US? Would that be including in Latin America? So Mexico all the way down to I don't have a map in my office.
Argentina.
Argentina is the bottom. Okay, Argentina. I didn't want to just butcher it just in case. So all of those countries are considered part of the Latin American market, from my understanding. For those who doesn't know, there are three languages? There's Spanish, Portuguese, and then I would say English.
Yeah, there's some English and French colonies, but when we speak of Latin America, mostly we do like the Spanish-speaking countries, and then we set Brazil aside because it's literally like a different continent.
Oh, get it.
Because of the amount of people, like it has more than 200 million people, and they speak Portuguese. So
Portuguese in Brazil, yeah. Okay, that's great. That's great that we mentioned that. And I know some of you are probably like, how dare she doesn't know? The reality is that I don't remember. We learn in school, and then we're so focused on North America, then we forget the rest of the world sometimes. So a mission on this podcast is to highlight diversity and how other people are doing it outside of North America. So what are three top trends that are happening in Latin in the Latin market right now?
Okay, so right now in Latin America, I wanted to go before answering that a bit of the
Go ahead.
specifics that are really different from the US. So I know like in the US right now and in Europe, it happened all the thing with GDPR and data in general. And in Latin America, we don't have something similar. So all those kind of changes in the user experience, it didn't affect us that much, even though people are informed.
Okay.
It hasn't had an effect yet. And another thing that I think it's key to understanding a bit of how the region works is that most of the users here use Android phones. So, for example, what happened with iOS?
Interesting.
It happened, but it didn't affect at least how we could find or target our users.
Okay. That is super interesting. That's very interesting. So let's talk about the consumer then. How are we measuring and tracking them?
Okay, so right now we are really reliant on third-party cookies to target users. And there are a few companies that have started to talk about this more and more. There was actually a great talk about it yesterday of an Argentinian company actually called Retargetly that they, with the help of other DSPs, created IDX, that it's an identifier that they want to use with different publishers. But again, this is something being talked by huge companies like MediaMath, Lotemi, and still the other mid-sized publishers, the mid-sized agencies, some of the advertisers are still not aware that this is happening. So, yes, we're still behind on some things, but we're always catching up.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of talking to one of my now friends, I would consider. His name is Salif Job. They built a DSP that is servicing African and Caribbean market and the Arabic market. So like the Saudi Arabia, the Middle East market, sorry about that. The Middle East market, African market, and Caribbean market. And his platform is called Kawa Rizmi. And he was saying that, targeting is a challenge right now, but because the company is based in in France, in Paris, they were able to automatically implement GDPR. But in terms of third-party cookies, he said, "Oh yeah, we're already working on it, and they are trying to focus on device targeting and text message marketing, because once you get one text from the company and the person clicks through, and then automatically you'll get that person in data. And of course, it's working closely with phone companies, because the phone companies is the one that have your data. So I thought that was such an innovative way of working on not using cookie-based targeting. So even if you have not really seen, like the rest of the industry, the Latin American industry, it's not really focusing on third-party cookie deprecation yet. I think like there's still time for you guys to get there. We don't even have it. I don't know if we haven't really figured it out. The good thing is that we have companies that are currently working on a potential solution, actually quite a few. And for those who haven't seen the Proasca Consulting article, I'll make sure to also include that in our show notes. But it was literally showing all of the companies, I think internationally as well, working on an identity solution outside of third-party cookies. So I thought that was very interesting. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I'm going to take the next 30 seconds to a minute to tell you all about my birthday challenge. I'm celebrating my birthday month, and I'm doing a birthday challenge in looking for 5 additional clients to sign up. I'm the founder and chief programmatic sensei of Ellen Parker Consulting LLC. And I specialize in increasing the efficiency of my agency partners, by 25% on average. How do I do it? By providing comprehensive media strategies, auditing operational workflows to help programmatic and digital media teams at excelling and managing client campaigns and thriving in a happier work environment. The last 12 months have been difficult for all of us, and agency teams might be feeling burnout from round-the-clock campaign management, keeping up with this industry trends, and learning new platform capabilities. This kind of fatigue leads to human errors that can be easily avoided in the future. With my help, so I'm focusing on helping as many companies as I can as I begin a new year of my life, another year of my life this month. Can you help me help you or someone you know that could really benefit from my services? Email me at info@helenparker.com. That's phonetically heleneparker.com. Enjoy the rest of the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. Like, there's still not a solution, and it's kind of like I feel like I'm watching like a soap opera, because it's like, okay, so Google talks about blogs, and Matilda says like, I don't want that, and then everyone's like trying to unify. Like, there's ID5 throwing some ideas around, and I don't know. I think it's something fun, but we're gonna get there at some point. I feel like in Latin America, we are lucky that like one of the biggest channels are social. We absolutely love. And I think like most of the e-commerces are focused on Facebook and Instagram. So maybe that's why people are not so focused on like, what are we going to do with cookies? And also mobile devices are heavily used here. It's more common for people to have a mobile phone because of buying a mobile phone. It's easier than buying a laptop or a desktop.
Phone. Okay.
Exactly. And so they still can do, like, as you mentioned, with your friend's company, mobile device tracking.
Yeah, I think in like the countries and the regional areas in the world that have connectivity to Wi-Fi issues or connectivity to a desktop computer, for instance, I think mobile targeting might be the next thing. So I'll actually have him on the podcast to talk about his initiatives, and then how the rest of the world, again, how the African market is doing it. And I mean, I was super impressed. So he'll be on soon enough on the podcast. So let's shift the conversation, because cookie deprecation is boring. And I'm quoting one of my guests, Arthur Keru, who said it was boring. So we're going to shift to something way more exciting, which is CTV. I know you shared this super interesting research. It was specific to Latin America, and it's a research based from Magnite. Sorry, and so one of the things I wanted to talk about is this stat that I had right here, but I lost. So 74% of people prefer to watch free or reduced cost ad-supported content. 26% prefer to pay for ad-free content, and then 83% wish there were more free streaming video services. And again, guys, for those listening, though this is specific to the Latin American market. So what can you tell us about the streaming consumer in that region of the world, and also about the initiative AVOD, paid versus free content?
Yes. CTV has been growing a lot in the region in terms of like a lot of, well, not a lot, like big companies just particularly coming to the region and trying to develop new apps. So first, I think it's important to have like demographic context, like CTV, smart TVs, Roku devices, etc., are more accessible to people with a higher income. So the amount of users, it's not that large as in probably in the US or more developed countries. So that's something in particular, and that explains a lot why people prefer to to use AVOD services because, I mean, we are already paying for that many stuff. So the opportunity to have content for free, it's always a great opportunity. And actually, during within that report, it shows that users do not mind watching the ad as they can.
Yes, 78% is said, right? 74%.
74%. They don't mind watching an ad as long as they still have free content. So that is something that it absolutely reflects how the region is and also how is the behavior of the consumer in Latin America. And we've also seen this because many of the AVOD services or channels that they have appeared, they're very focused on soap operas, on telenovelas, because they can watch it the whole day. Like we all love it to watch TV while we're doing something else.
Yeah. I think it's a cultural thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, we don't mind watching an advertising. And this is going to be something really positive for brands when trying to for CTV because people are going to receive the message of the brand in a very positive way. There's actually been some studies of how brand lift was exceeded after watching CTV campaigns. So yeah, this is something that it's really interesting. There are not that many players as far as channels, apps, and devices and the amount of users. But we know that it's going to keep growing, and most like big companies are noticing it. Like, for example, Roku is creating a whole strategy to create a lot of channels that are just dedicated to content here from Latin America, because most of the content, for example, Pluto TV, that it's huge of AVOD, the content is already translated to Spanish, but it's also international. So even though we would say like people with higher income probably like to watch international content, most of the people would absolutely prefer to watch their content from their country or from Latin America.
Got it. It makes sense. And Roku is, I think, either number 1 or number 2, considered in terms of like best streaming devices after maybe Amazon Prime. So I understand how, I mean, I think that's a major move for Roku, the fact that they're focusing and trying to not like match the culturally match content for the different countries. Because I can relate to that. Like you want to be able to watch content from where you're from, and then everything else is kind of nice once in a while. And also I wanted to mention real quick that growing up, I grew up in Senegal in West Africa.
Yes.
We didn't have a lot of channels on TV. Of course, we didn't have no streaming at that time. And it was, we had only a handful of soap opera, but it was like from the, I don't know if it was from Argentina or Mexico. I can't tell. But every time there was a series coming on, it was like based, like it was like Spanish based, but we had the subtitle in French. So we were listening we were listening in Spanish, and then there's another show that they just started translating in French for us, so we didn't have to. But we have like 1 or 2 series, and for my old school listeners, I'll make sure to add the one I'm talking about in the show notes because I can't think about it. But there is that one show, and everybody loved watching this show. But so when you mentioned soap opera, how you guys like soap opera, I started giggling because it took me back to when I was I was like early teens. Oh boy, great times. All right, so guys, in recap of what Manuela just shared with us, am I pronouncing it correctly, Manuela?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I gotta make sure.
Those soap operas helped. Spanish pronunciation.
Yeah, Manuela. Okay, I got it. All right, so she just shared that their, streaming CTV is still growing in that region, in those regions, sorry, because there's more than one. that consumers are more likely to watch content with ad, because as long as it remains free, and that Roku is making major moves in terms of creating channels that is going to reflect to the consumer down there. So that's super cool to hear. Another stats I would like to mention, and again, that's from Magnite research report, is in terms of behavioral impact. So it says right here, advertising in CTV has the power to activate viewer response both online and offline. So 52% of all respondents took some kind of action. I don't know about you, but I can confidently say that we don't have that high of a number right now in the North American region, right? I think it's so high. It's like 52%. And it breaks it down by, I guess, the top 3 countries in terms of CTV availability. So 45% from Argentina have taken action after watching the ad, 52% from Brazil, and 58% from Mexico. So that's like major. So do you think that number is going to continue increasing?
Yes. So I think definitely the users are very responsive, and people are feeling more comfortable with CTV and CTV ads. And while like some formats are going to be developed, I'm thinking right now as I speak, but with I know there are some companies that are bringing QR codes for CTV formats, so you'll be able to go to the store. Yes,
you just scan the TV. That is so smart. That is so smart, y'all. They just like, you put your phone up and you scan it and you keep on moving. That's genius.
Exactly. So I think as this continues to happen, and also I know like YouTube ads that they take the major share on CTV, continue to try to merge the online ad with what happens in the offline world. This trend is going to continue to increase. And it's also because we absolutely love offers. And I think like we are always amazed by new stuff. I think like technology is something that we are very receptive, and we can tell by just what happened last year with quarantine, etc. Yeah. Like there was an excessively early adoption of CTV in Latin America. Like it grew so fast that no one had a chance like to act on it, because like same people here. Started downloading stuff and seeing like, oh, there's this new whole world, and actually also using QR codes. We didn't have that in Argentina until last year for paying for stuff. Like in the US, it's normal Apple Pay, but it was something, it happened, but it accelerated the adoption into regions. Right. So yes, I think that's going to continue.
Right. That is so, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. CTV definitely grew very much. I think it was 200% more in the US specifically. And I had Catherine Dale on one of the podcasts recently, and she said that it was an average of 45 minutes a day of streaming before COVID and before quarantine. And it went to like 4 hours or 3 to 4 hours. I was like, wow, I'm watching a lot of TV in one day. That's a lot. But it's all streaming. That was not linear. It's all streaming TV. And I want to get back into the stats I just gave, because I kept reading and I noticed what. So I said that 52% of those respondents took some type of action, and those actions are laid out as follow. So it's either they search online for the product, service, advertise, they recall the ad later, they discuss the ad with somebody, so that there goes your awareness, there goes your brand lift, and then they bought the advertised product or services. So I wanted to make sure I highlight those actions, because action can be anything. And I don't think a view is an action, guys. So that's definitely not one. And that's what I wanted to clarify before we move on to the next point. So, oh man, this is so interesting. So what is this the one thing, so in terms of prediction, what can you predict for the CTV in that market? What can you think is going to happen by the end of the year, or by next year we'll be seeing X?
So I think I'm gonna take a minute to think this one.
This is a tough one. I don't know what to tell you. I think it's going to continue increasing. I think it's going to, based on what you just said, I feel like you guys are going to continue getting more creative and innovative in how you will measure and tie that action from the streaming that's happening.
Yeah.
Like the QR code, I think is really genius. I'm very impressed. I don't know if the listeners are, but I think it's really cool. It's a nice concept. So, and it goes back to what I was saying about the African market. They're texting the ad or the promotion. If the consumer clicks through, then that's how they're able to retarget offline, which I thought was really interesting. We have different laws here in the U.S., but I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think in general the CTV market, it's gonna boom because like the pressure of having Roku with more inventory, and also companies like SmartClip that is from Spain, they landed to Mexico and Brazil trying to evangelize the market on it. Like I think there's still some time for us to, and for agencies, for all the parts that work on programmatic, to understand what CTV is, because it still happens to me that I am always training clients on like what CTV is. They still don't get it that much. They really want to see like the visuals. So instead of like having a mock-up, I have a mock-up from the TV, like going into Roku, going into a channel.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, those are the ones that we've created to help the client understand, because in Latin America we love to see stuff to believe it, and so I think following this line of all these companies coming to show the wonders of CTV and programmatic, and like the money shift into digital, and being able to just pay a CPM for being on a big screen than the absurd amount of money that you pay for linear, it's going to make sense that it's going to eventually boom, because small advertisers that weren't ever able to get your ad on prime time on linear, they're going to be able to do it on CTV.
Oh, absolutely.
And also they're going to be able to reach out to those consumers like me that I don't own a TV. So those millennials and Gen Z we are becoming consumers. And let's not forget that this region is a really young region. So most of the people are young, and we prefer watching TV, streaming, and using our mobile phones for everything, for watching Netflix, for buying stuff. So I think it's going to be really interesting, and hopefully I'll be there selling more CTV.
You're definitely going to be there. I think you will. I think you're becoming a leader, and you are a leader in the industry. So I think that would be really cool to continue seeing. And we'll definitely have you back so you can give us an update on the CTV space. So was there anything that you wanted to mention before we get into the second article and we close the podcast?
No, I think we
had a great conversation. Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with end with this article from Digiday, and you can give me your top 3 point of view. The article, the Digiday article, is called "The Great Sucking Sound: Automation Has Made Media Buying Harder." In the article, I'm recapping really quickly here. It's saying that even though ad tech, DSPs, whatever technology you're using in your day-to-day, even though that technology has advanced, you still need to have somebody to be able to monitor, and that you shouldn't trust the automation 100%. What is your take on that?
So, when I first came into this article, because I'm always worrying about, machines are smarter than us, they can optimize, but I am completely, I agree 100% with that. There still need to be people involved. You still need to monitor your campaigns day to day, even though you have a daily cap. Like something as simple as not hitting a daily cap, and you have to measure that. I think you're still going to need to have people to monitor the process. And also, one point that I really liked about the article in specific is that even if automations start doing processes that we normally do, they're still going to open other positions and other jobs that we're going to need to support to help machine learning and IA. So that's something that I found really interesting. And I do think like one of the examples that they show that that's something that we struggle normally is that with reporting that we need to download 4-6 spreadsheets and be able to show that in a dashboard. Like dashboards exist and analytics teams exist, but I still have clients asking me for the Excel.
The insight, yeah. And the Excel, yeah. So funny you mentioned that. I just had Mia Manos on the podcast, and she's the co-founder and I call it data unicorn of Clickvoyant, and it's a reporting system that helps you visualize the data, and it pulls initial insight so that your data analysts don't have to do what you're doing, like pulling all those reports, putting it in one, so it's automating. But the key differentiator with Clickvoyant is the fact that it really understands based on goals, and it pulls from Google Analytics. So it doesn't only mention your paid, it mentions everything else. And sure, some of us listening are going to be like, oh, I'm doing this in Tableau or Datorama. Cool, right? Good for you. But it's about working smart. And in that, and I'll end this before we close, but I mentioned how when I talk to clients that don't understand programmatic, the word per se, or programmatic media, or why it's important, I always like to refer it to as a train. You have a train. The train can go from A to B because it's one straight line, even though programmatic is not one straight line. But you still need a conductor. We're not there yet. I know that the train company here in the US is working on automated some stuff, and then we hear Amazon and Elon Musk saying that cars are going to be driven by themselves eventually. Cool. But in this moment in time, we still need a conductor. So that is a great article. Again, I will make sure to ping it in the show notes because I really want to know more about you on a personal level. So in our closing segment, I like to ask some fun facts questions. So can you tell us 3 fun facts about yourself in like 30 seconds or less? And go.
Okay, so I started doing handstand class during the pandemic, and that led me to studying acrobatics almost in my 30s. Wow. I love traveling. I was born in Venezuela, raised in Colombia, but I've been living in Argentina, so I consider myself from Latin America.
Yeah, that is definitely it. Yeah, that is so it. I used to watch this show on Netflix, and it was based in Colombia. It was filmed in Colombia. I think, what is it called? It's something about the witch, always a witch, or something like that. It was really cool.
I know which one is.
Yeah, but I thought it was really cool. That I was streaming this when I was on maternity leave, and I was just I wanted like a different perspective. So I started Googling Netflix series filmed outside of the US or filmed outside of like the European countries. And this one came up and I was like, let me look. And I thought it was very nice. It was really great content. It was for a younger market than myself, but I really appreciated like just learning and seeing like Colombia. It's such a great country. I mean, it's such a beautiful country. Sorry, I meant to say beautiful, not great. It's such like a beautiful, and they were like, I mean, just like the maybe it's the way they were filming, but I was like, I wanted to jump in that water. I wanted to go have a couple, a glass of whatever, a cocktail with them because it was really bomb, like really.
Yeah. Yes, I just recommend all the time people to travel to Latin America. I recently lived in Nicaragua for 7 months.
Oh, wow.
And it's the second most tourist country in the region, but literally the most beautiful I've seen. Like, it's amazing. Like the combination of volcanoes, lakes, and things that I've never seen in my life in such a small country. And yeah, from Mexico to Argentina, just the landscape.
Wow.
You just love it. And the people and the food.
And it doesn't surprise me. Like Senegal is a third world country, but it's such a beautiful, the scenery, the culture is so gorgeous. And most African countries are considered third world country on the economic and political level, but it's gorgeous. Like Venezuela, I have clients of mine, the Colibri agency, a Colibri digital agency, and some of her team are in California and in Venezuela. And like I looked up Caracas, and I was like, yo, I showed my husband, he's like, we got to go there. Right now, I'm pretty sure that their borders are still closed because of COVID. But we made an agreement with each other that in the next 2 years, we're going to go. And it could have been this year had it not been the COVID. And then we're still like a little like chickens. We're still scared of traveling for real for now. But yeah, I support that. And you know what? If you have pictures to show, I would love to show it on our social media. Thank you so much for joining us. This was such a great experience. This is not the last time we'll hear from her. We might hear from her next month even, because I have so much more question about that market. Thank you so much, Manuela. This was so amazing. I'll have Manuela's LinkedIn information in the show notes. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too, Helen. Thank you so much for having me. And you have a great day. Un abrazo para ti.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your love and support. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you have any questions, feedback, or just simply want to say hi, email us at info@programmaticdigest.com. You can also visit the website, programmaticdigest.com, where we're always looking for guest hosts. We're also looking for sponsors. So hit us up if you're interested.